Thanks everybody for joining us. I'm Greg Fisher, the mayor of Louisville and the president of the United States Conference of Mayors. Boy, the events of the past year and the past weeks have been really challenging, but I've got to say that America's mayors and the people we serve are looking forward to the months and years ahead with hope and optimism as we distribute vaccines now and we build a more equitable economy and work to put years of division behind us so we can come together and move forward as a country. Today, we're going to get some insights on how we can move forward in a conversation with an incredible leader whose perspective will help inform our thinking and decision-making in the months and years ahead, particularly around the subject of infrastructure. I'd like to introduce Barbara Humpton. Barbara is the president and CEO of Siemens USA, whose 40,000 employees help America move forward using technology and innovation through more agile and productive factories, more intelligent and resilient buildings and power systems, as well as more reliable and sustainable transportation. Earlier this year, the Conference of Mayors with Barbara's team at Siemens USA conducted a survey of the mayors with Harris Poll about how mayors are prioritizing infrastructure while facing a health, economic, and societal crises. They found that 69% of mayors say their long-term priorities for economic recovery include investing in infrastructure to generate jobs and stimulate economic growth. 97% of us mayors agree that investment in technology is absolutely necessary for the future of our cities. And this is one of the many examples of how we have partnered with Siemens. So Barbara, thank you so much for your support and collaboration with the conference and the mayors.
Mayor Fisher, it's a real privilege to be with you all today. Thank you.
You know, Barbara and Louisville, as you know, we're really graced to have a Siemens facility here, and they're a real leader in technology and manufacturing and responsible climate action here in our city. So thank you for that.
Mayor, thank you so much for your engagement. The team was really delighted to meet with you recently. This kind of conversation among the local Siemens employees and the city leaders that we serve really helps us understand your requirements. And I'd say to our audience here, if any of you are interested in meeting with your local Siemens team, please do let us know.
So in the survey I referenced, one priority mayors identified was figuring out how to use technology to create safer indoor environments to help people return to school and return to work. And so as we continue to struggle with the COVID-19 pandemic, would you talk a little bit about how technology can make workers feel more comfortable about re-entering buildings that played such a big part in their lives prior to the pandemic?
Yeah, thanks. This is such an important point. The science is very clear here. We know that indoor spaces are more dangerous to us during a pandemic than outdoor spaces. And so our experts in the technologies that are in buildings actually put their heads together using the science, work to identify technologies that we could bring to bear that would help us make indoor spaces healthier, more livable, actually usable in the midst of this crisis we're going through. And what we've learned is we do have tools right here at our fingertips. And a good example is the idea of using an ozone-free air purification system. The idea of attaching new technology to our existing HVAC system and then flooding a space with positive and negative ions to actually neutralize pathogens of all kinds. Turns out that if we deploy this kind of technology, not only can we respond to the coronavirus crisis we're dealing with right now, but it actually helps us create spaces that are healthier for the future. Now, some of the examples of places we've actually put this to use are like Malloy College in New York, where they wanted to be able to keep on-site learning as part of their plan for this year. And so they put this technology in all their residential halls. And in fact, we've worked with over 150 government office buildings across the country, helping to make sure that we're creating these healthier spaces. The most recent coronavirus stimulus package even included some funding support for projects like these. Turns out they're pretty affordable. And not only are they low in capital intensity, but they're also perhaps in some cases generating savings. So with then the help of some stimulus dollars, what we hope is that stakeholders across the country will look to this technology to help people get back into the offices.
Excellent. Well, so let's switch now and talk about infrastructure more broadly. This is a moment where we have tremendous needs with the infrastructure, but we also have new opportunities to improve our infrastructure with technology. And cities can't do all that without partnering with the private sector. So what are some of your ideas on how we can work together more effectively on infrastructure projects that create both jobs and make us more resilient for the future?
Yeah, this is a great question. And I was so honored to be invited to participate in a panel with the Conference of Mayors in 2020, talking about this topic. And what was clear to me was that mayors across the country are looking to community development block grants and such to help them address the needs for critical infrastructure that it's going to be essential, not only in recovering from the coronavirus crisis and creating jobs, but also in helping to resolve some of the racial inequality issues that communities are dealing with. So we know how important this is to mayors, and of course our survey really reemphasized that. As we look to our capabilities at Siemens and think about what we can bring to the table, there are a couple of clear examples. One is just work we can do in power infrastructure. You know that we are dealing with infrastructure all across the country that is stressed. And what we've been finding is that bringing extra power to critical facilities like hospitals is key. Working together with the Army Corps of Engineers and technologists in Siemens, as well as Hoagland Energy and Engineering, we were able to pull together a project in Westchester, New York in a matter of weeks that might have taken months. So funding, a sense of urgency. If we put our know-how together, we know that partners in government and private industry can get phenomenal things done.
Yeah, no question about that. Now, one of the ways we know we have to work together is to address climate change. Mm-hmm. The nation's mayors have been leading on this issue of climate for quite some time, acting locally for over a decade now. And the Conference of Mayors stood up very early on in this conversation as a leader, and we are proud to continue to lead on climate. So what has Siemens learned about the ability of technology to help us achieve our carbon reduction goals?
Well, first, I'm proud to share with everyone that Siemens was one of those early leaders in making a commitment to carbon neutrality. Back in 2015, we made the pledge that we would be carbon neutral by 2030 and that we'd be halfway there by 2020. Sure enough, when we tabulated our results at the close of 2020, we were proud to see that we are 54% complete with our work. And we feel it's important for us to set an example because as a manufacturer, as a large employer, as a company that really has some of the biggest challenges, facilities, transportation, et cetera, we felt it was important for us to make our own commitment. But not only that, we see this as a unique moment when the technologies that we bring to the table, as you mentioned in your introduction, our work in the power sector, I think positions us uniquely to help cities all across the country address their needs. Think about the conversion to electric vehicles as we work to take gas-powered vehicles off the road. Well, it turns out that part of it is getting the automotive manufacturers ready to produce electric cars, but an equally challenging part of the equation is the electrical infrastructure we'll need for charging. So over this past year, we've deployed over 65,000 electrical vehicle charging stations. We're working with companies like Amply, a startup that's focused on bringing a new kind of power purchase agreement to market to help people move forward with fleet electrification for buses and trucks. These kinds of changes are right here on the doorstep. We have everything that we need within reach from a technology perspective. I would tell you that some of the biggest challenges are going to be dealing with just public policy to make sure that we can overcome some of the hurdles, say in the procurement process, right, that would allow us to move nimbly, allow us to take advantage perhaps of private investment in some of that critical infrastructure, and help us move forward with our decarbonization goals.
Well, thanks for your leadership on all that. And I just personally want to thank Siemens as well. When we were developing our apprentice development program here for workforce upskilling in Louisville some 6 or 7 years ago, I made a trip to Germany, and you guys were incredibly gracious to us to train us all on what you were doing with your apprentice program, and your local operation here in Louisville has also been equally as gracious. So you lead Siemens USA and a part of a big, large global company that's just one of the best in the world. So I just want to say thank you to that. And thanks for this terrific and enlightening discussion as well. We know we got a lot of work to do, and we know that infrastructure and technology are going to be critical to helping our country make those next steps. We're all hoping for a big infrastructure package to sometime in the next couple of months. I hope that we'll move our whole country forward again. So thanks, Barbara, and thanks everyone for joining this session of the United States Conference of Mayors Winter Meeting. Thanks, Barbara.
Thanks so much, Mayor Fisher.
Hello, President Fisher and mayors. My name is Sulima Espinel, Vice President for Global Public Policy at Starbucks Coffee Company. I am deeply honored to have the opportunity to join you today and share with you Starbucks' continued work to build strong, inclusive communities through renewed commitments to the cities you lead. 2020 was an incredibly challenging year for all of our communities. The unprecedented impacts of the global pandemic affected our partners, our employees' lives, the communities we serve, and underscored the importance for companies like ours to support the cities you have so courageously led over the past year. At the beginning of the pandemic, we created a COVID-19 playbook to outline the protocols we would use to keep our partners safe and to support them during the early and uncertain days of the pandemic. These three principles continue to guide us as we navigate the pandemic with a continued commitment to prioritize the health and well-being of our partners and customers, to play a constructive role to support health and government officials as they work to mitigate the spread of this virus, and to show up in a positive and responsible way to serve our communities. Our commitment to these principles continues as we work with leaders like you to promote and support COVID-19 mitigations, such as contact tracing, vaccinations, and economic recovery. As the world shifts to the vaccine distribution process, we will continue to demonstrate our dedication to these principles by using our scale to prioritize partner care and education and help them understand how they can access the vaccine. We will support our public health officials as they do the hard work to distribute the vaccine and look for innovative ways to assist our communities. 2020 also brought forward a much-needed national conversation about the importance of advancing racial and social equity. 50 years ago, Starbucks set out to be a different kind of company with a third-place community where everyone is welcome and respected. We are committed to continue the work to uphold that commitment. In October, we announced bold actions to act with intention, transparency, and accountability to create a strategic vision for the work ahead. Our efforts build off the work we have shared with you at past winter meetings, led by the former Attorney General Eric Holder, Covington and Burling, and our civil rights assessments. In October, we released additional workforce diversity statistics, and we established annual inclusion and diversity goals to increase Black, Indigenous, and people of color, or BIPOC, representation to at least 30% at all corporate levels and at least 40% at all retail and manufacturing roles by 2025. We are also establishing an Inclusion and Diversity Equity Council to better integrate this work through our organization. Late last year, we issued $1.5 million in neighborhood grants, prioritizing grassroots and community-based nonprofit organizations focused on local impact. These grants are aimed at uplifting organizations that serve Black Americans and those supporting nearly 400 local nonprofit organizations across the country. We are investing $5 million to launch a 2-year initiative focused on supporting nonprofits that serve BIPOC youth by accelerating investments in inclusion and diversity practices, mentorship and youth leadership development, and youth skill building to create thriving and equitable communities across the U.S. On January 13th, we announced a plan to invest in CDFIs across the country. And by 2025, the Starbucks Community Resilience Fund plans to invest $100 million to advance racial equity and environmental resilience by supporting small business growth and community development projects in neighborhoods with historically limited capital access. As we celebrate 50 years as a business and a company that made third place connections the heart of our existence, we look forward to continuing our work with you and our support for the people that you serve. And as we eventually move to a post-pandemic recovery, we are committed to forging resilient communities that are inclusive and diverse, and cities where entrepreneurs have an opportunity to build strong, sustainable businesses that will thrive for years to come. Thank you for your leadership of our great American cities. And please know that Starbucks stands with you in making our nation a better place for all.
Good afternoon. I want to thank the membership of the U.S. Conference of Mayors for the opportunity to speak at your 89th annual winter meeting. The alliance between Major League Baseball and the U.S. Conference of Mayors is one of our most significant partnerships. Mayors across the U.S., including Puerto Rico, have played a crucial role in the growth of our play ball program. Through our joint efforts, baseball and softball combined to rank as the most participated sports in the United States. In fact, baseball and softball have led participation numbers across all sports throughout our partnership. Through the Play Ball Summer Initiative, we've engaged thousands of children in your communities, including those at Boys and Girls Clubs of America, MLB's official charity. This year, even while at home amid this pandemic, mayors gave families tips on how they can stay engaged with our sport. You also joined us and fans everywhere by participating in the Tipping Your Cap celebration of the 100th anniversary of the Negro Leagues. Today, I'm honored to announce that this great partnership will continue in 2021. All of us in baseball look forward to working together with families and our young people to advance the greatest game ever invented. Our country finds itself at a time when unity, inclusion, and community are more important than ever. Baseball has proven its unsurpassed ability to build bridges from generation to generation and within communities of people from different backgrounds. I believe that Major League Baseball and the mayors will have an important role in bringing people back together. And as leaders in these communities, mayors are uniquely positioned to strengthen the bonds between their citizens and our sport. I want to thank you again for your continued partnership. We look forward to the good times ahead for our country and its national pastime in 2021.
All right, I'm Greg Fisher, the mayor of Louisville and president of the United States Conference of Mayors. I'm really excited to welcome one of the conference's outstanding partners from the business community, and that's Doug McMillan. Doug started his career at Walmart as a teenager unloading trucks. He's risen through the company's ranks and held senior leadership roles in all of Walmart's business segments. Today, he's president and CEO of Walmart. He's also chairman of the Business Roundtable, an association of CEOs of America's leading corporations that the conference has been working with. Doug oversees a team of more than 2.2 million associates worldwide, and Walmart's total revenue for the most recent fiscal year was $524 billion. Under Doug's leadership, Walmart's investing heavily in associate wages, benefits, and education, and the company has launched an ambitious program, Project Gigaton, to combat climate change and work with suppliers to avoid 1 billion metric tons of emissions worldwide. And Doug and his team at Walmart have partnered with the conference. They've been great partners on a number of efforts, including our annual Climate Protection Awards, the U.S. Manufacturing Innovation Fund, and the Mayors and Business Leaders Center for Equitable and Compassionate Cities. So Doug, thanks so much for being a great ally to the work of the conference, and We thank you for joining us here today.
You bet, Mayor Fisher. Thanks for having us.
All right. You've got an incredible story from starting as an entry-level worker to now CEO of one of the world's greatest companies, one of the world's biggest companies. So you've got to have a foundation of values that have guided you along the way. So you see any great company, you see any great city, it's guided by a strong set of values. Could you talk a little bit about that in terms of how it's influenced you with the growth of yourself and Walmart, and how you see that with great mayors and great cities also?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And my experience with Walmart started when I was a teenager, unloading trucks in a warehouse and experiencing the company's culture and values by the associates working on that shipping dock and in the receiving area. And it was amazing how much they cared about the company and how they could articulate what the values of the company were even there. Sam Walton, lived them, and the values that we have today and the cultural behaviors that are here are largely still a reflection of him and how he led the company, even though he passed away in 1992. So today, we talk a lot about our values. We're a global company operating in so many countries. And so back when I could travel and now using other means, I'm constantly talking about the 4 values of the company and how we want our behaviors, our culture to align to those, and how they help us in our decision-making process, how they help us with decentralization of decision-making and speed. If you know where we're going, have some shared consciousness about what we're trying to do and who we are, it helps you be able to make decisions in an empowered way. We see it with our store managers in a crisis locally, where they just decide to help and don't bother to check with the home office to see if they can give something away or take an action. And it shows up in a lot of different places. And I totally agree with you about how important it is.
Yeah. So have you seen that come to live with great city governments or mayors that you've worked with? And do you differentiate between leading a private sector company or how we lead public sector entities as mayors?
I think there's a lot of commonality. The first place that popped into my mind when you asked that was El Paso.
Yeah.
We had a very tragic event there in 2019. And so I spent a lot of time in El Paso, and our other leaders did, and we got to know the mayor and the leaders in the community, and we got to understand the culture of El Paso through that recovery process. And I know that's true in Louisville and other places too. And you all are architects of the values of the community that you serve. So, it's great when that's the case and you have a principled leader, one that knows their own values and knows the values of the organization they're leading.
In one of Louisville's, we have 3 big values here: a city of lifelong learning, an even healthier city from physical and mental, environmental, spiritual health, and an even more compassionate city. And by compassion, we mean respect for all of our residents so their full human potential is flourishing. And so when Walmart stepped up to be the lead funder for the Conference of Mayors Center for Equitable and Compassionate Cities, some people are like, well, that's unusual. But really, when they understand more about you and your company, they see it's a perfect fit.
I think so too. And it's great that those are your values. Those are a terrific set.
Yeah. So let's shift over now. You've got another interesting role as chairman of the Business Roundtable. And of course, the BRT is the leading thinker and leading voice for larger businesses in America. For a long time, the mission of the Business Roundtable was to optimize shareholder profits. But the year before last, I think it was about a year or so ago, BRT said that's not good enough anymore. It's way too focused. America's gotten out of balance in terms of wealth and income. So you all changed the mission of BRT. And then this last summer, I think you doubled down with racial and equity policy initiatives as well. So if you could talk a little bit about that journey of BRT, what the influences behind it are, and then this most recent pronouncement this past summer, and share what you think that means to our cities.
Yeah, thanks for asking. I think the definition that was there before was just antiquated and had been kind of ignored. The businesses that make up BRT, which is about 200 of the largest companies in the country, had already largely started behaving differently, having more of a long-term view and having a multi-stakeholder view. And I think it makes total sense. If you don't have a strong community, there is no business. If you don't have a strong country, if you don't have a planet, there is no business. So in some ways, it just kind of boils down to long-term versus short-term thinking. And what we hope society rewards and what we hope the investment community rewards is more of a long-term bias and give us a little room to make investments to create a better refrigeration system at Walmart, or to invest in auxiliary power units that help our tractors operate more efficiently as we pull trailers around the country. Give us a little room to think about those investments over a 5 and 10 year horizon, in some cases longer, instead of this quarter. And so when we made the change to the statement, most, maybe all the CEOs were like, well, this is pretty straightforward because that's already how we think and how we run our business. And we were surprised at the reaction that came from media and maybe some other places to say, whoa, this is a big change, because it didn't actually feel like a big change to us at that point. But I think it created a good conversation. And so then as things play out, including what happened with the murder of George Floyd and the work on racial equity, even policing reform, which is not something that BRT would typically get into, it kind of fit within that framework more in a way that people could understand why we would care about those things and why our actions and our voice should be used.
Well, I can tell you, it makes all the difference in the world when you're sitting in a mayor's office and you feel like the corporate community is working in concert with you, whether it be on workforce development or racial equity policies. It's how we got to win in today's world. It's the challenges have never been greater. We saw that on January 6th, and I was curious. I've seen Walmart's made some changes relative to political donations. So how do you, one of the biggest companies in the world, you looked at what happened with the insurrection on January 6th. How do you absorb that as a company? And for a long time, companies just said, well, we're going to stay out of commenting on issues like this. So when do you decide to get involved or not get involved with political issues or socioeconomic issues and use the strength of the Walmart pulpit to make a statement?
Our preference would be to just be a merchant and to conduct business. But that luxury is not afforded to us during really significant times. And the associates of the company expect us to speak up in a way that is consistent with their values. Back to the other conversation, the pressure that I feel almost all the time is greater inside the company than outside the company, where people will say, well, you talk about these values, this just happened. Even back to things like Charlottesville, what are you going to say about it? And so we did make an announcement related to stopping, pausing our PAC giving related to the 147 that voted in a way that seemed to reinforce these allegations about the election that are just not true. And so truth should matter, and our democracy matters. If there's no American democracy, there is no Walmart. I mean, these things, are needed from an environmental point of view. So I think there is a need to just speak the truth and say the right thing and try to make the best set of choices. Ideally, we'll stay out of politics as much as we can and leave that to you. And by the way, working with mayors and governors feels so much more productive than some of the national conversations and political stuff that's happening at the national level. When I interact with people, there are so many good people just trying to do good work on the ground around the country, and that gives me hope.
Oh, there's a lot of reasons to hope. I mean, the media can take us off to the extremes, but, look, we're just trying to get business done each and every day, whether you're Walmart or the city of Louisville and all the people that are going about getting after it. So that's the strength of our nation, the diversity of our cities, the diversity of your workforce. And so we're in good shape, but leadership is important, right? And that's why I think it's so important that the BRT has stepped up. You've stepped up in a way. Silence, we can't afford to silence anymore. We've got to stand for something, and I really appreciate what you guys have done in that area. Let's shift over just to a little bit, obviously a huge change in e-commerce over the last decade or so. The pandemic has accelerated it even more. The technology that drives it, how people buy goods, how they receive goods, where they work from. How are you looking at that in terms of your company? And then put a mayor's hat on. How would you be thinking about that from a mayor's perspective in terms of how it's changing our cities?
Yeah, a lot of the changes that you've seen exaggerated during the pandemic are going to stick. And one way to think about it is in the future, for people that can't afford it, and we hope to make this available to a lot of people, not only people with a lot of money, they're going to increasingly look at merchants or retailers like us as a service organization. Eventually, we may just keep you in stock on the items that you buy all the time for your family in your home, in your refrigerator, in your garage, or put it in a refrigerated box on your front porch somewhere where you want it. And there's about 100 items that you and your family buy really frequently. I use Heinz ketchup as the example for my wife and I. Shelly and I had Heinz 32-ounce ketchup in our refrigerator when we got married. When I die, there will be Heinz 32-ounce ketchup in the refrigerator. The bottle's upside down, but it's the same ketchup. So how many times have I gone to Walmart to pick my own ketchup order throughout my life? Would I like to have that time to do something else with it? Actually, I would. But somebody's got to take care of the ketchup and everything else. And so when you think about needs, things you buy frequently, will look more and more like a service. We'll manage your inventory levels. You won't have to think about it. It may move to virtual reality and voice and things like that in the future, but it'll still be wants and needs. Now, on the want side, exploration still matters. You'll come into stores because it's fun and you'll see something new, but you'll also do that with your devices, and we'll serve things up that we think you might like, and you'll either want it or you won't want it, and that's more discretionary. The supply chain's got to change behind that, and the infrastructure at Walmart is changing to be able to accommodate that kind of world. We think stores will still be important, but they got to be great stores, and we think e-commerce is going to continue to grow in this country and around the world. If I'm a mayor, I'm thinking about my infrastructure. You know, what's my plan for 5G? What am I doing about affordable, accessible broadband for everybody? Because we've got to bring these kinds of opportunities to everyone, whether they have a high income or a low income. Perfect.
All right, I've seen you operate multiple times. We've been a couple meetings together. You're a pretty chill guy, but is there anything that keeps you up at night? I mean, what are the big things that you're worried about these days?
I'm trying to balance it all. You know, life is a lot about balance, and we are trying to serve customers, invest in our associates, continuing to raise wages, invest in education, help them be ready for the jobs of the future, serving all these constituencies, and making a difference as it relates to the environment, and really spending a lot of time on racial equity this year inside the company and beyond. And so, you know, I sleep well. I don't worry. I have faith and confidence and hope about where we're headed in the future, but I know there are going to be challenges, and some of them pretty extreme. So then the question becomes, what do you do about them? And the way we view ourselves around here is we're problem solvers. So problems emerge every day. We have things happen all the time, and we're trying to figure out which one of us or which group of us is going to solve that problem and get on to the next one, whether that's how to serve customers better or how to help make a community stronger or make a difference from a sustainability point of view. So that kind of weighs on you. It's full-time work.
Right. Sounds like the mayor's office. You know, it's like, we know something's going to happen today. We just don't know what, when, or where, but it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So, you know, the key to running a good mayor's office is like your organization, have a good set of values that guide you, have a good plan, long-term, short-term, and then skillfully react to what happens day in and day out. You do that and you're going to be distinguished. And that's one of the things that's been amazing about your company, Doug. It is really hard when you get big to be agile, whether you're a company or a city government, state or federal government, but you guys have really demonstrated that level of innovation and excellence day in and day out. So good job to you and your team. So as we close out here, new president, President Biden, you know how important it is to set the tone when you start something new. So what kind of advice would you give President Biden here as he starts his first week and his first 100 days?
I'm encouraged by the fact that he's saying he wants to bring people together. And I hope that he can get that done with the people that he's appointed and with Congress in a way that not only has the right words coming out of people's mouths, but some policy actions and some things that actually represent that, and acknowledge the people that didn't vote for him and what they care about, the things that are really real, whether those be social issues or they be economic issues. We really have to understand each other and listen to each other. You know, the people that went into the Capitol building don't represent all the people that voted for President Trump. So all those people, what was really driving that behavior for them, and how do you address through policy and rhetoric their needs and wants so we can move back towards feeling like one America more than we were before. So, you know, we've got to address the health crisis. We've got to address the economic crisis in parallel. They both have to be addressed quickly. And I'm hoping that the federal government will clear up some of the issues related to vaccines, both the supply issues and the administration of them, so that we can get going faster. At Walmart, we have the capacity to put a lot more needles into arms than is currently being taken advantage of. And we'd like to see somebody clear the decks so that we can help get that done, and others can too. And then beyond that, infrastructure, immigration, there are policy things that can be taken on that can really strengthen the country. And I hope that Congress is willing to work together to make some of those things happen, because we can't do it around them or without them.
Yeah. So what I hear from you is, number one, culture, setting the tone, and then two, teamwork. If we all pull it together, there's nothing we can't do in this country, and I think people are ready for that. So
I hope so. I am.
All right, Doug McMillan, thank you for humanity that you demonstrate each and every day, and kind of the new type of CEO that our country has been really waiting for. So thanks also for your tremendous support for the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and we look forward to a long and successful future with you guys. So thanks again, Doug, for showing up today.
Thank you for your leadership. Good to see you.
All right. everybody. I'm Greg Fisher, Mayor of Louisville and President of the United States Conference of Mayors. I'm really honored to introduce my friend and colleague, Mayor Muriel Bowser of Washington, D.C. since 2015. And as the Chief Executive of the District of Columbia, she has authorities that typically belong to a governor, a county executive, the administrator of a school district, and of course, most important of all, the mayor. And Mayor Bowser has led effectively through a particularly turbulent time, going back to last year and of course this month, contending with the pandemic and mass demonstrations like a lot of us. And this month, she led DC through an especially difficult moment in our nation's history after insurrectionists stormed the Capitol on January the 6th. Over the past 3 weeks, Mayor Bowser and her team have really responded in a magnificent way. We saw this attempted coup of the federal government. We witnessed another impeachment in the White House, and she helped ensure the a peaceful transition of power to the Biden-Harris administration. Inauguration Day, Muriel, was a beautiful moment for our country. She and her team helped make that possible, and we're deeply grateful to you and your staff and law enforcement for all the work that you guys did to protect the 8 wards of the district and really send a message of beauty and grace to the entire country. So welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you so much, Mayor. Thank you so much. And thanks for this convening. While I'm so happy to see everybody, I wish we were here in Washington, D.C. for our winter meeting. So I hope everyone is looking forward to next year when we can be together again in Washington.
Well, we all want to be in D.C. and you never know what the world's going to throw at us as mayors.
That's
and
right.
So what a whirlwind that you have been through these past couple weeks. So, and this week culminated beautifully. Thank you. So share kind of reflections here with your fellow mayors about how all this has come to you and you processed it so well.
Well, I think we've all, as we've shared privately, have experienced a tumultuous year in many ways. This pandemic has thrown us more than a curveball. I don't think anybody ever would have thought that we would have to shut down our cities, close schools, set up testing facilities and vaccination facilities, and deal with the economic crisis. I think that we all had our hands full in leading discussions and police responses to the racial justice reckoning that we're experiencing in our country. And all of that has been underlined by political tumult. And we feel it especially here in DC because Donald Trump was particularly aggressive in many ways in our city in a negative way. And I think we all, certainly I did, underestimated the immense feeling of relief I had when Joe Biden took the oath of office.
Yeah. So what do you think? I mean, you're sitting in the mayor's office or you're at home and you see the storming of the Capitol. I mean, it had to be emotional, it had to be intellectual. What was going through your mind and through your heart?
It was quite unbelievable. I was actually at our joint operations center at our police headquarters where, we have a big bank of cameras. We have obviously our police leadership, but federal partners also sit there. And I planned to spend the day at one of our offices, not City Hall, but across from MPD. And so when my police chief called me and said that, we got the call from the Capitol to help back them up, that it looks like this thing on the Capitol grounds is going south. I walked across the street to our police headquarters, and that's where I watched the events. And I knew, sadly, when I saw the police line break, that and them, the insurrectionists run up the steps of the Capitol, that it was going to be a bad situation.
Yeah. And so then you put your mayor hat on and you think about public safety. Share with us, you've got this unique role as mayor of DC, so coordinating local, federal, adjoining states.
Yeah. I think that the kind of unique status of Washington, D.C. was on full display. And one thing that I know is that most Americans don't understand it.
Yeah.
So we are not exactly a city, not exactly a state, not exactly a county. And so as mayor, I'm the chief executive, of course. We have a $15 billion budget. I run the school system. We have a 13 member council, and we're responsible for public safety in all respects in our city, except for the federal enclaves or the federal facilities, where for the most part, they have their own police departments. The U.S. Capitol Police has its own police department. The Secret Service is responsible for the White House. The National Park Service has its police force, the United States Park Police, Postal Police, ATF, FBI, you name it. They're all these various police departments. Another thing that was on display was that our National Guard is not really, it's called the DC National Guard, but it's not actually our National Guard. They report through the Secretary of the Army to the President of the United States. So all of these things are coming together to have a big problem. And at the end of the day, as mayor and as an American, I saw people storming the Capitol. And even though I don't really have the authority to order the DC National Guard to the steps of the United States Capitol, it was my job to make sure that that happened. And over a series of conversations that have been much reported, that is what I tried to do. And after the events, there was a short period of time between January 6th and the inauguration. All mayors know this. We have the things that we have the real power to do, and we use our convening power and to get everything else done. And that's what I did to make sure that the federal, the executive, and the legislative branch were talking and were in lockstep for these events. The National Park Service doing what it needed to do and the like. The other thing that I find interesting, and we all should be concerned about as Americans, and we've heard this in previous reports, but our country is particularly vulnerable during this transition period. And we hope that we have a exiting executive that is focused on a smooth transition and focused on keeping us safe. And we have professionals in all of those agency offices that don't bail at the end. But that's the position that we were in. We had a number of acting directors. We had them agency secretaries that were resigning left and right. I actually had a conversation with the Homeland Security secretary, and where he was communicating some decisions that he was making, responding to my demands. And 30 minutes later, he resigned. And so then we had a new Homeland Security director. So one key takeaway that I have from this that is very concerning is that we are particularly vulnerable during that time if we don't have, exiting people. And hopefully we'll never have anybody like Donald Trump, but we could. And what type of safeguards is certainly a lesson learned for us in the city. So now, Greg, what we're focused on is we need our country, but certainly us, needs to regard this white extremist movement as a very real threat to security in our city and for our federal government.
Absolutely. And Mayor, I know you're really tight on time, so let me just say one thing here, and I'll give you a final word on this is, you rose to the occasion, and you never know what's going to happen until it's presented to you. So I think when there's leadership studies done in the future, the way you handled all of this with your formal and informal power and the guts that you showed during all this will be a model for people to learn from. So you made mayors look good. I appreciate that very much.
Well, thank you, Mayor. You always make mayors look good. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that. But I think this also then brings the question back to DC as a state, right? I mean, this was far too dangerous of a situation for you for somebody not to have the power to pull it all together. You did it, as I said, formally and informally. But the Conference of Mayors has long supported DC as statehood. So just remind mayors why that's so important.
It's very important for us. A lot of times people think that for DC to become a state, we require a constitutional amendment. And let me just remind everybody that that's not the case. Every state outside of the first 13 has been admitted to the Union by act of Congress. And a simple majority in the Congress, in the House of Representatives will do. And then the Senate will have to confirm it. And we'll also have to vote, and then it goes to the president. Since I've been mayor, 6 years now, we've been working on a strategy that Tennessee followed to become a state. We got a new vote and from our residents, where 86% of the people supported DC statehood. We wrote our constitution and we established the boundaries for the new state, which is largely outside of the area that you saw on TV that was being secured by the National Guard. The nation's capital, the federal enclave, continues to exist as the nation's capital, and everything outside of those new boundaries become the 51st state. Our Congresswoman, we had our first successful vote on statehood in the House of Representatives last year. She reintroduced the bill. She has a record number of sponsors. Is going to be introduced in the Senate in a couple of weeks. And we expect to have a favorable vote in the Senate as well. And then it goes to the President of the United States. We have made a big focus to President Biden to support DC statehood and make it a part of his 100-day agenda. Now, while it's important for us, where we have full autonomy, we're full tax-paying citizens, and we certainly love our territories, but we're not one. And we're different in that respect, is that just like you, we pay the same federal taxes as every citizen of the 50 states of the US, except we do not have two senators. We literally have no one to speak for us in the Senate. So while my officers were storming those steps to get those people out of the Capitol, they literally have no vote in that Capitol building. Yeah. So we have to correct the problem of autonomy. The president of the Congress shouldn't be able to veto what our elected leaders decide. And we have to have full representation.
Well, amen to that. Mayor Bowser, the Conference of Mayors will be fully supportive of that. We appreciate your good work. Mayor Bowser, I'd like to call you Governor Bowser.
Thank you, Mayor.
You've just done a tremendous job on this. You're a great mayor. You represent us all so well. You're a great citizen. You're a great American. Thank you for your service and your time here with us today.
All right. Good to see everybody. Hope to see you soon.
All
Bye-bye.
right, take care.
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed colleagues, friends, and fellow attendees, it's an honor to join you for the opening of the 2021 U.S. Conference of Mayors Winter Meeting. While we are separated by oceans, distance, and time zones, we're all here as Americans, working to serve and to protect the lives, liberties, and well-being of our citizens. Let me first thank our partners who have worked with us to continue our winter meeting in a virtual format. These partners represent a diverse array of great companies who have been civic partners in supporting mayors and advocating for American cities, such as American Beverage Association, HDR, Mayors Against Illegal Guns, Every Town for Gun Safety, Siemens Corporation, Starbucks Coffee Company, Target Corporation, and Verizon Communications. We especially want to thank our Business Council members for support they provide the conference and our cities. Over the past few months, our Business Council members have been critical partners as we renew our mission and reinvest in advancing the mission of the U.S. Conference of Mayors in the 21st century. In particular, I want to thank the immediate past co-chair and Walmart Senior Director of Community Relations, Javier Angulo, for his service over the past 2 years, as well as our steering committee co-chairs, Tracy Hester from Target and Eugene Anderson from Suez. We are living in no ordinary time. The challenges are real, complex, and consequential. We know our residents want solutions, not stalemate. Policies, not protest. Alternatives, not anger. We are mayors and we get things done. Thank you and welcome to another winter meeting.
Thank you, Mayor Suarez. I am Eugene Anderson, Senior Director of Industry Relations and External Affairs for Suez. It is my honor to serve as co-chair of the Business Council Steering Committee. First, let me thank Mayor Fisher for your tremendous leadership during these unprecedented times. To Tom Cochran and the entire staff of U.S. Conference of Mayors, your seamless transition to a virtual world has been nothing short of amazing. To the Business Council, your continued support has helped this organization to continue its mission. To the members of the steering committee, I say thank you for your confidence in voting me as co-chair. And now I'd like to turn this over to Tracy Hester from Target, my co-chair.
It's a pleasure to work with Eugene, the steering committees, Mayor Fisher and Suarez, and the U.S. Conference of Mayors staff to strengthen the partnership between mayors and the business community. Target remained open throughout the pandemic. We witnessed firsthand the nation looking to their mayors to keep their communities safe and economies working. The pandemic has intensified the relationship between mayors and business as we all navigate the new normal for our cities, employees, and customers. The U.S. Conference of Mayors 2020 Business Council Best Practices Report highlights innovative public-private partnerships to address challenges facing our nation and cities. Please look for it in your inbox and on the conference website the week of January 25th. At Target, we believe strongly in unity and working together in local communities. You'll hear more about this commitment from my colleague Laisha Ward later in the program. Thank you for your time and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Hello, everybody. Mayor Greg Fisher here. I'm pleased to welcome Nationwide Retirement Plans back to our winter meeting. Nationwide is a platinum partner of the U.S. Conference of Mayors and has been working with your benefits department since 1978, helping city employees plan for and live in retirement. Mayors, you know Nationwide. They're the market leader in the defined contribution industry. That's the 457B deferred compensation plans and 401A plans in your cities. And we're happy to have them as our partner. If your city is seeking a deferred compensation provider, please consider Nationwide. At Louisville Metro Government, Nationwide is our deferred compensation provider, helping our employees save for retirement since 1985, 35 years. Most recently, Nationwide was awarded the opportunity to do business with other cities, Fort Collins and Thornton in Colorado, Rialto, California, Gilbert, Arizona, Macon/Bibb, Georgia, and Las Vegas, Nevada, just to name a few. Dalbar Inc., a leading independent expert organization in the financial community, recently announced that Nationwide has earned the coveted Plan Participant Service Award for 2020. This award recognizes Nationwide for the quality of telephone support being provided to participants in both public and private sector retirement plans. This year's award is especially significant because of the uncertainty related to the pandemic and the financial hardship faced by so many Americans. 2020 marks the 7th consecutive year in which Nationwide earned the Plan Participant Service Award. Scott Ramey, Senior Vice President, National Retirement Plans, is here to share more with us.
As mayors of America's cities, all of us at Nationwide appreciate all that you're doing to lead during the challenging times. You're balancing the safety and well-being and livelihood of citizens and small businesses. You're managing resources to keep police, fire, hospital, teachers in place to service and protect residents. And lastly, you're working to support residents during COVID, including health services and vaccine distribution. Just know all of us at Nationwide want to express to you our extreme gratitude for your leadership. I recently had the opportunity to see a speaker share some thoughts with us at our national sales meeting. And what he said was really profound. He said, leadership is about setting expectations and building confidence. And there's no doubt that from afar, you are doing that on behalf of your residents, and thank you for your leadership. During these uncertain times, we're proud to be a partner who's there for our government sector partners and plans and participants. As you know, last year we moved all of our Columbus and field associates to technology-enabled work from home in about 2 weeks. Our hold times have been less than our competitors. We have consistently been there and available for our participants and plans. Our associates continue to be available by phone and video to assist the participants in your plans, providing educational webinars and one-to-one interactions, just as they did before COVID. Nationwide has provided comprehensive resources to support our associates during this time so they can continue to support your plans safely. We're doing this through technology resources for remote work, training and education, and flexibility of work schedule to meet the business needs while balancing home and family commitments. Our commitment at Nationwide is to always do the right thing at the right time. It's truly what makes us unique. And we've been recognized for our associate engagement and caring culture by Fortune and Gallup. And lastly, Nationwide has long been committed to diversity, inclusion, and equity, including recent social justice work, building upon our history of charitable giving. In fact, over the last 2 decades, Nationwide has given to charitable organizations just over $500 million. Following the death of George Floyd this past summer, I'm proud to tell you and share with you that Nationwide created a social justice task force with 28 representatives from our associate base of 28,000 associates. I was proud to be selected to serve on that task force. We developed and created recommendations to share with senior leadership and our CEO and the board of directors. Our recommendations are being put into action. We focused on housing, economic mobility, criminal justice, and education. We extended our partnerships with community groups to deepen our existing commitment, as well as there's work underway now to support new initiatives. In addition, we created the Financial Alliance for Racial Equity, or FAIR. We will work to increase the number of Black financial professionals through added training and mentorship opportunities with Nationwide executives, the Employee Benefit Research Institute, and founding member firms. Nationwide will continue to be there for you, your cities, and all the participants that we have the honor to serve. I'd like to close my remarks with a video of how Nationwide has demonstrated extraordinary care to our members and partners in response to the challenges of the pandemic.
Since 1926, Nationwide has been on your side.
We've been there in person during trying times.
Today, being on your side means staying home.
Nationwide Office of Customer Advocacy.
But we can still support you and the heroes who are with you.
We're giving refunds on auto insurance premiums,
assisting customers with financial hardships.
And our foundation is contributing millions of dollars to charities helping with COVID-19 relief.
Keeping our promise to be on your side.
I'm Greg Fisher, Mayor of Louisville and President of the United States Conference of Mayors, and it's an honor to welcome a really special guest with us to our winter meeting. We all know Mike Bloomberg is an entrepreneur and a creator of one of the world's most successful companies. And of course, Mike is also known as the mayor's mayor. In his 3 terms as mayor of New York City, he helped the city return to greatness following the pain and destruction of 9/11. As mayor of New York from 2002 to 2013, Mike championed numerous huge initiatives, from public health and climate initiatives to turning around the city's public school system and helping the city experience record levels of private sector job growth. Then when he left City Hall, Mike returned to the company he founded and also devoted even more time to philanthropy, which has been a top priority for him. Today, Bloomberg Philanthropies has 5 areas of focus: public health, arts and culture, the environment, education, and of course, government innovation. Mike's donated $11.6 billion to a wide variety of causes and organizations, and he's told me he intends to give a lot more over the coming years as well. So Mike has shown an incredible commitment to America's mayors in our conference, whether it's the Bloomberg Harvard School for Mayors, funding the Conference of Mayors strategic planning effort, or Bloomberg Philanthropies COVID-19 local response initiative. He's dedicated to helping mayors build our capacity to better serve the people of our cities, and we are very grateful for that. So Mike, thank you for your support and partnership, and thanks for joining us today.
Well, Greg, thank you for having me, and thanks for all your help over the years. Louisville's lucky to have you. I will say that I miss being a mayor a little bit. 12 years was enough, I think. And I loved it when you got woken up in the middle of the night because it said you were relevant. Today, I sleep better. And I still look a little bit and say, you know, I would have made that mistake or I wouldn't have made that mistake. But I think this country is well served by an awful lot of the mayors that we have around the country. Mayors, as we all know, tend to be nonpartisan. Mayors are where the action is. Mayors are where services are delivered. And I think it was Fiorello LaGuardia who said there's no Republican or Democratic way to pick up the garbage. You've got to do it. But what's nice is you can see when you do it and people can see how good a job you do. So if you do a good job, you know that you're happy that you're doing it. You know they're happy if to the extent they can ever be satisfied with the job you're doing.
It's tough these days, Mike. You know, it started with the pandemic and then, of course, the economic freefall and civic unrest. And of course, now we got that going on and all over the country as well. Climate change is attacking a lot of cities, so it's tough. But let's start by talking about this once-in-a-century challenge we've had with the pandemic. It's upended our country like nothing we've seen in our lifetimes. And you've been a major supporter of mayors on many different initiatives. But can you talk about the work that y'all are doing with the mayors to fight the virus and why you thought it was important to focus on cities?
Mayors are where the action is. And I think in virtually every state, that's where they're going to have to figure out how do you get it to people? Where can they go? In New York, if you go on the internet, and the next 6 months is sold out already of all the vacant spots. Right, we're not going to live with that, so we'll have to change it.
Hey, let's talk about the new Mayor's Challenge contest. You just announced that last week, and it's open to cities all over the world. So why right now with the new challenge? Your challenges are famous. They've led to a lot of innovation, and then we mayors steal and copy from each other to reproduce those in our own cities. So what's driving the latest Mayor's Challenge contest?
This one is worldwide, and so maybe they'll come up with other ideas. And those things are things that we can spread around. The whole idea here is to get lots of people to try to come up with ideas and make sure those ideas are available to everyone. And we have cash prizes to get people to win. But even those that don't win, you can copy those that come in second or whatever, or just miss the cut. And a lot of the cities that miss the cut still go and do it themselves. They just raise money privately to fund it, or they get their city to fund it.
Well, I saw, and I was really happy to see this, and proud of the team and your decision to do this about a month or two ago when you announced the $100 million gift to America's 4 HBCU medical schools. And so, we've spent a lot of time talking about equity and justice, something that just at the core of who you are. So what was the process like and the thinking that went about going to this HBCU medical school gift?
We've got to do something about education. One of the places in education where we identified a problem that you could fix was there are, out of all the 100 or so historically Black colleges and universities, there used to be 15 that had medical schools. That's down to 4 now because medical schools are very expensive to run and you have to have a hospital you're affiliated with, so you can't do it just on your own and whatever. And so there's 4 historically Black colleges and universities that have medical schools. Their students, like students at all medical schools, need financial aid. These colleges and universities don't have a group of wealthy alumni who can, and extensive fundraising operations where they can step in. And so what they're they were not able to expand the number of Black doctors. And what's interesting is there is a lot of evidence from particularly public health schools and medical schools that if you don't get a doctor that looks like you, if you'll use that euphemism, that you don't feel that you're getting help from somebody that understands your problems. So we thought if we could expand the number of kids who could, or adults, young adults, who could go to these medical schools and get them out in the population, more people would go to the doctors. If you don't go to the doctors, you don't get the kind of medical care, then you come down sick, you die early, and all of that sort of stuff. It all feeds on itself. So we made a gift to the 4 historically Black college and universities medical schools. And these kids, when they get through school, are going to be out there. And that's the people who are going to help our citizens get better medical care, lead healthier lives, be able to take care of their families. It all feeds into the same thing.
Yeah, no, an extraordinary gift. And it's, look, a lot of people think about Mike Bloomberg, this like, business titan and all this. The fact is, you're one of the most progressive thinkers in the world. You've put policy in place, you put money where your mouth is. And in those areas, we just talked about health and health equity, but it's climate. So you have been a champion of climate and sustainability for a long time. So when you think about President-elect Biden, I don't know, President Biden coming into play, what are some of the things that if you were whispering in his ear, what would you say? Here's some things you can quickly do once you're in office without having to wait for Congress to act.
Well, number one, COVID has to come up because it's a short-term problem, and there are things that he can do with executive order, and the federal government isn't all that important to it. Once they get through dealing with the drug companies and sending the virus out, then the process of administering and delivering the virus to people is downstream away from the federal government. Then it goes to the state and local levels, as we said. Climate change is another thing. Climate change is much more serious long-term than the virus because the virus doesn't kill everybody, but climate change has the potential to kill everybody. Our foundation's been working on first getting rid of coal-fired power plants. We've closed over 60% of all the coal-fired power plants in the country. We really do have a chance of getting all of them, or virtually all of them, closed by 2030, which is only 9 years away. And we're doing the same thing in Europe now, where actually Europe has fewer coal-fired power plants, so we're ahead there than we are in America. But people, because of our efforts supporting the Sierra Club to go out and campaign and picket and write letters and explain to executives why it's in their interest to do it, and the economics of renewables. Today, if you built a brand new coal-fired power plant and you're about to turn it on this afternoon, the economics say you should not throw the switch, rip it down tonight if you can, and put up renewables, because renewables are getting to be so much more economically in the power plant owners' interest. So it's capitalism at work, if you want to think about it that way. And also, companies are where a lot of the action is on climate change, reacting to climate change. Why? Because it's their employees who are demanding that their employers do the right thing. It is the customers of the companies who are the power plants who are demanding they do the right thing, and companies that use energy. And it's the stockholders. So it is these three groups pushing the companies, and maybe also it's not fair to say that the management of those companies don't try to do the right thing as well. But the forces are all aligned to get us to do something.
As we're wrapping up here, President Biden's cabinet choices have become clear. We got 2 mayors in there. Mayor Pete Buttigieg.
I thought there's 4. I think there's 4 mayors that he's appointed to something, not necessarily just cabinet offices.
Yeah. Well, how's that make you feel? We got Mayor Pete Buttigieg with transportation, Mayor Marty Walsh with labor. Some other mayors at different positions.
I don't know what the hell he was thinking about all the other people that were not mayors. I would argue, look, and I really do, all kidding aside, I feel this way. These jobs are management jobs. They're not policy jobs. You hire people for policy. the top person is a manager, and that's the person, she or he, that makes it all work. And mayors have experience in management. Governors tend not to. There's some exceptions, but they have, and at cabinet level and the president, they have zero, just zero. They have no experience in management. But everybody, nobody likes management. I don't want somebody telling me what to do. But if you want to fix the problems, you go after managers, and then they can get people to explain the problems to them, and they know how to take problems that are new and categorize them and build staffs and administer and do all of those kinds of things. We just don't seem to be able to get to understand government is about management. And the reason is the politics don't work. Nobody wants to have, I don't need another manager. I need another teacher, for example. A teacher is not the principal of the school. The principal of the school is the manager, and that she or he is supposed to run it, not the teachers. The teachers are critical. That's where you deliver the service. It's like the doctor that gives you, that saves your life. It couldn't be more critical. But you still have to have a head of the hospital and a head of the medical school. And those are the ones that set the policy and give the person that's delivering the service the ability to do that, and the facilities to do that, and the oversight to do it correctly.
No, absolutely. I can tell you here in Louisville, some of our most esteemed colleagues are the great project managers that can just get stuff done.
Not surprising.
At the end of the day, you got to deliver. Okay, look, you've had an amazing career in many different ways. Just curious, Mike, what is the best job you've ever had?
Oh, it is mayor. Clear. I love my company. I loved where I worked. I was at a dinner party one night, and somebody said, "What's the worst job you ever had?" And I've had only 3 jobs full time, and I've loved every one of them. So I thought this was a dumb question. If you're not happy doing your job, you should then make a change. So I certainly liked all of them. But the mayor's job was the most satisfying because we increased life expectancy by 3 years, okay? When I left office, New York City had a life expectancy 3 years greater than the average across the country. And I did the math. If you take 3 years more on 8.4 million people and then divide it by life expectancy, you saved 80 or something, I forget the numbers, but something like that, 100,000 lives. Where else are you ever going to get a chance to do something like that?
Well, look, thanks so much here for your time. You've been an amazing mayor. You're most fundamentally, you're a great human being. So we just appreciate everything you've done for the city, for the country, for the United States Conference of Mayors. That's
all the best.
Mayor Mike Bloomberg. Thanks so much, buddy.
On behalf of Wells Fargo, I'm thrilled to join the mayors today to announce the honorees for the Community Wins Grants program. 8 distinguished nonprofits will share $1 million to address housing affordability solutions in their communities and help more people experience a safe, affordable place to call home. At Wells Fargo, we are focused on combining our business expertise with financial capital to create positive societal impacts, including for people of color who have been disproportionately impacted by the economic fallout caused by COVID-19. Our Wells Fargo philanthropic strategy is anchored on 4 key areas: small business growth, financial health, housing affordability, and enabling a just, low-carbon future. We know COVID-19 has taken a toll on all communities. We want to help foster an inclusive recovery. One of the key building blocks to recovery is addressing the racial equity gap, which is why Wells Fargo has committed to support small and diverse businesses through its Open for Business Fund, with approximately $400 million to help small businesses impacted by COVID-19 keep their doors open, retain employees, and rebuild. Through this initiative, we are engaging community development, financial institutions, and nonprofits that focus on serving small business. And we're focused on increasing access to capital, technical expertise, and long-term resiliency. I'm proud to say to date, this effort has helped protect more than 50,000 small business jobs and keep small businesses all over this country open for business. As we all know, one of the most acutely impacted sectors during this global pandemic has been housing, and COVID has upended housing stability across the nation. Facing these challenges, this year's Community Wins Grant Program will award $1 million to address housing affordability solutions in local communities in collaboration with the leadership of the mayors. And now, drum roll please. I'm excited to announce this year's 2020 Community Wins Grant Program honorees.
For the Metropolitan City category, Denver, Colorado Mayor Michael Hancock and the Metro Denver Homeless Initiative. Outstanding Achievement Honors to Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot and nonprofit Neighborhood Housing Services. For the Large City category, Anchorage, Alaska Interim Mayor Austin Quinn Davidson and nonprofit Covenant House Alaska. Outstanding Achievement Honors for Newark, New Jersey Mayor Ross Baraka and nonprofit Invest Newark. For the Medium City category, Grand Rapids, Michigan Mayor Rosalind Bliss and nonprofit Grace Homes. Outstanding Achievement Honors for Brownsville, Texas Mayor Juan Mendez and nonprofit Come Dream, Come Build. For the Small City category, Frankfort, Kentucky Mayor Lane Wilkerson and Franklin County Women and Family Shelter Incorporated. Outstanding Achievement Honors for Waterville, Maine Mayor Jay Coelho and Waterville Community Land Trust.
Please join me in congratulating these incredible nonprofits and mayors for their innovation in addressing the housing affordability crisis. We realize much more needs to be done across the country, and we look forward to working with you in 2021 towards building an inclusive, sustainable recovery. Thank you, mayors, for all your leadership. We love partnering with you. Let's make 2021 great. Thank you.
Hello. As Speaker of the House, it is my privilege to send the greetings of the Congress to the nation's extraordinary local leaders at the U.S. Conference of Mayors 2021 winter meeting. I salute your conference president, Mayor Greg Fisher of Louisville, whose vision for an American breakthrough is a beacon of hope and progress during this time. As a San Franciscan, it is my special privilege to salute my mayor, Mayor London Breed, of whom I'm very proud. Thanks also to my friend, Executive Director Tom Cochran, a strategic and talented partner on behalf of America's cities, with whom I've long been honored to work. As a proud daughter and sister of mayors, Thomas D'Alessandro Jr. and Thomas D'Alessandro III of Baltimore, I know firsthand that your success is the foundation of America's success. The work of cities on the ground will be more essential than ever as we welcome our new President, Joe Biden, and Vice President Kamala Harris. And aren't we thrilled that two brilliant mayors, Mayor Marty Walsh of Boston and former Mayor Pete Buttigieg of South Bend, will be serving in the cabinet. In these challenging times, mayors witness every day the devastating impact that COVID-19 has had on our nation. And since day one, you have led the way to protect and honor our frontline heroes, our healthcare workers, police and fire, first responders, transportation, sanitation, food workers, and our teachers, our teachers, our teachers. Last year, with your help, the House passed a bipartisan relief package, which is a down payment on our future action. Together with your input and advocacy, we will pass President Biden's emergency coronavirus relief package, which delivers big, bold, and urgent action. Among other key priorities, this package will provide strong state and direct local government support to ensure that local government can keep job workers on the job, keep services running, and can equitably and immediately distribute the vaccine. In combating the virus and economic crisis, and in all that we do, we will build back better, ensuring that we not only recover, but that we rebuild in a way that advances justice for all. With confidence in President Biden's promise that help is on the way, we will act quickly and boldly to deliver results for the people. On behalf of the United States Congress, thank you to the U.S. Conference of Mayors for your trusted partnership and leadership for the people. Now let's get to work. Thank you.
Good day. This is Jim Diffley, Executive Director, IHS Market Economics, and I'm happy to be able to speak to you, to the U.S. Conference of Mayors, virtually this year. Once again, I'll be presenting our outlook and perspective on metro economies in the U.S. As we enter 2021 and the Biden administration takes office, amidst the worsening COVID pandemic, we note that most recent federal relief packages did provide some relief and fiscal stimulus to help to offset the worsening economic impact of the pandemic and the lockdowns. But more will be needed. 2020 ended with GDP 3.4% below its peak a year earlier. Payroll employment declined by 140,000 jobs in December, and that was the first monthly decline in the recovery since March. Private sector payrolls declined by 95,000 and government payrolls by an additional 45,000. The 51,000 job decline in state and local government employment lowered our forecast of first quarter GDP by 0.1 percentage point to 2.3%. The unemployment rate was unchanged in December at 6.7%, but that was the first flat reading so far in the recovery. That is the first month it did not decline. Thus, employment was 6.2% below its 2019 peak, a loss of 9.4 million jobs. State and local governments have lost 1.3 million jobs, almost 7% of at the start of the year, the start of last year. It's important to realize, however, that low-wage workers in service sectors have been particularly hard hit. Year-over-year GDP growth in the forecast is 3.9% in 2022 and 2.5% in 2023. Job growth is expected to be 4.7% this year, 1.8% next, as job levels regain their previous peaks at the end of 2022. But we will have lost 2 years of growth. Employment will, to start 2023, be 2.8 million jobs below the level projected at the beginning of last year, that is pre-pandemic. The economy will not catch up to that pre-pandemic forecast until the latter part of 2024. Metro economies have lost almost 8.9 million jobs in the past year. We expect that 5.6 million of those will return in 2021, 3.2 million in 2022. It's important to realize that while 2023 will see a return to 2019 job levels, we will have lost 3 full years of growth that would have occurred. Metros would have experienced $239 billion of growth in wages. So that's $239 billion in lost wages due to the pandemic, and $432 billion in lost GMP growth. Nevertheless, after suffering more severe declines during the pandemic than the nation as a whole, 2022 will see the metros drive the national recovery as shares of gross metro product, jobs, and wages meet or exceed their 2019 contributions. Here we see a map of employment growth for last year, 2020, described by the percent change from a year ago. The dark red are the deepest losses. They include Northeast and Pacific metros, but also metros scattered across the country, from Florida to Minnesota. The next map shows real gross metro product growth in 2020 as a percent change from a year ago. In GMP growth, almost all metros declined for 2020 last year. Reminiscent of the Great Recession last decade, the pace of the recovery is not V-shaped. It will be mid-2023 before 1/2 of metros have regained the jobs lost in 2020. In 2021, this year, only 83 metros, or 22%, will have regained their peak levels, previous levels in 2019. In 2022, it'll be 45%, or 173 metros. In 2023, 223 metros in total, or 59%, will have returned to 2019 employment levels, and many will have surpassed it. By the end of 2024, 1/3 of metros, of all US metros, will still have fewer jobs than in 2019. Now, urban areas were disproportionately affected by the pandemic. Center city offices emptied out as remote work became the norm. Leisure and hospitality services were the hardest hit sector, and cities suffered as they generate significant income and revenues from tourism, entertainment, and business and leisure travel. Lower wage hospitality service jobs were the most curtailed. These factors also impacted, we should note, people of color, workers of color, disproportionately harshly. But metro economies will once again lead the recovery. The metro share of US jobs and income did slip in 2020. It will recover as metro economies lead the way out of the recession. By 2022, metro areas will account for 91.5% of wage and salary income and 88% of all US jobs. Thank you. Stay safe.